Hey, man, listen. It's probably not going to be okay today. It's probably not going to be okay tomorrow. Might not be okay next week, but next year, 2 years, 10 years, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cameras. We're live.
We're back. We're back.
Back with an episode.
Number 11.
No, I messed up last time.
Okay.
Last one was 9. This one is 10.
All right, well, we made it double digits.
We made it double digits.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, and to celebrate double digits, we have our first invite. First guest on the show. Declan, introduce yourself.
I don't think I was invited. I think I walked up to you and said, when am I on the podcast? I think that's what I did.
I think something like that. But then we've tried to invite so many people throughout the week, and then we just had like so many options. We're like, nah, you're the one.
Yeah. You're the first one, so don't fuck it up. I'm just kidding.
Way too late, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, now that we're here, a lot of good stuff that we have today in stores. But first, we know you. Everybody around the world knows you. But for those people that live under a rock that don't know you, just give a good 3 or 4 minute introduction about yourself, your story, and how you got here.
How I got here? I mean, I'm from a tiny little state, New Hampshire, originally, and then I took an internship, Cressy Sports Performance in Florida, met this asshole down there. Was there for like 4 years, left, called him, asked what should I do with my life. He said, oh, you should just come to Tread. And then I applied and then showed up and I've just started bothering everyone here.
Damn, so the relationship with Nico it's a lot. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we go way back. He got to see me in a different facet compared to what everyone here gets to see me. So, yeah, we definitely go way back. But when he called me and, told me that, he was looking for a change, it was a very easy conversation for me. It was a little bit, different for him just because, it was something new. But that was kind of like how, him being on this podcast and him being a homie, it's one of those things to where, a lot of people don't know how smart this guy is in a sense of, one, the effort that he puts into what he does to be really good, but also just his background. And us being at this place at Tread, we have so many knowledgeable coaches. And, putting in a word for him, it was a piece of cake. I mean, just because of who he is, because he was with me when I was still playing and I was in a very weird part of my career. I mean, he was with me every single day when I was rehabbing, and we built a friendship. We built a bond as far as coach and athlete, but then after a few months it became more of this is a homie that I would do anything for. So
yeah. I mean, we all know Declan for being rehab specialist, very smart, knows what he's doing. Talk to us a little bit about that, right? What is that going through rehab with players? Because when players are doing rehab, it's not a fun time.
Yeah.
So it's more of that they don't want to be playing in the game. How do you navigate that? To make sure players stay positive, and to see the small wins during the rehab process.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the hardest thing, and it's that's why working with you is really helpful, to be honest. I remember, because after you, it was 6 weeks no throw after TOS, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a day where he had been progressing really well through rehab and all that stuff, and it was the set date for the first day of throwing was a Friday or something, whatever day of the week it was. And then someone told him that he wasn't going to be able to throw a ball unless he could do a feet elevated push-up or something, right?
Yep.
And I think that was the first pressing movement he had done with any measure of real weight in 6 weeks. And I mean, he about lost his fucking mind. So it's I was oh no, this is not good, And I mean, there have been other situations where, one guy I worked with who outwardly has always been a super tough, durable human, got a relatively small procedure done, and then looked at the scar and just, or the like incision, and just passed out. Like literally, just went fully unconscious. And so it's like trying to find, like you said, trying to find little wins. Like I think it's just like player to player, really. At the end of the day, like for me and you, I thought it was more like, I think your wife was pregnant at the time you were rehabbing, right? Like, so I always felt like it was more, like specifically with Nico, like just trying to talk to him about, how's your wife doing? Are you looking forward to being, a dad of 2 as opposed to a dad of 1? Like, like little things outside of the rehab that are like more enjoyable than showing up to a facility and having to talk to me and 5 other strength coaches and the pitching coaches and the physical therapists and whatever. Like just finding things outside of it that are like way more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And obviously we were in Florida, so it was pretty easy to say,
go out fishing,
go to the beach, man.
Go to the beach, something.
Have a nice time. But that to me is like more of the thing. And then like I think just kind of going, I don't know, more specifically with you, just because you're right here, like it was always like easy to find wins with you, because it was like, hey, you're a really fucking good athlete, so it's like easier to find things with that sort of guy. But like, hey, you weren't able to feel your serratus work last week, like you're actually feeling that in pressing movements now, like that's a huge win, and
small W's. And find and resonate with the person. Right, building that relationship, and then kind of like you're saying, finding those small W's through the rehab process. It gets monotonous, man. I've gone through rehab, and it's just the same thing. It's like, what are you doing again? Same shit we did yesterday. Yeah. And then the athlete goes, all right, and then you implement new things here and there, and just want to see those things progress and having those W's. But I'm super. The guys that are watching this right now, I am doing this for my own sake and all this. You guys are just enjoying the conversation. But do you guys have any questions for Declan that respect to the game?
I think, biggest question for me is like, being, coming from crazy to trade, what has been the biggest kind of like challenge or,
I mean, I would say the biggest difference or like change or whatever, I mean, Nico, you and I have talked about this a lot, where it's like, the difference of like throwing outside versus indoors is like
crazy big.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Like, and there's just like, I mean, if you've never been to the facility in Florida, like it's like an iffy turf field that they all throw on, and like it's still just like so much different to be outside and like all that sort of deal. Like that's probably the biggest difference that I would love to have, is just like a field outside, And other than that, I mean, like, in Florida, like I wasn't necessarily like one-on-one with a whole lot of guys. Like, it was like, Nico says I was with him every day, but it was like I wasn't necessarily like standing next to him, for the full, hour and a half or whatever he was working out. So it was like, that's kind of the biggest difference, is like, getting guys through, at least like the throwing stuff, if not any prep work they have and lifting stuff. That's probably the biggest like 2 differences, I would say. Yeah.
I think one thing to go off of that too, especially because like, I was a CSP athlete for 10 plus years, and when I met Declan, I was at a very weird point in my career. And I think just to go off that too is, I think when you're going through rehab, and we talk about monotony, there was a lot of monotony days. There was a lot of there was times where like my progression started going, and then it just kind of plateaued, and then it went down and then up. But I think one of the biggest things that helped me in like, Welly asking that question, is like when you have a guy like Declan that you trust, because you can ask him, dude, there was times where I came in with something new every day, just like what our athletes do, to where like, hey, I think it's my big toe, like this. I'm dead serious. There was times where for 2 weeks straight, we got stuck on supination and pronation of the feet, right? But I think the biggest thing is like, one of the things that helped me was knowing that every day, I knew I was gonna show up, but I knew he was gonna show up. And I knew that like, even like, because he can allude to this too, is like there's times when I would sit in my little area that I had at CSP where I would get loose at, and I would start talking to him about, like, hey, what do you think I'm gonna do after baseball? Like, I'm talking about random jobs and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing is like having somebody like that to show up, because like I knew I could confide in him and ask him questions because of his, like, you know, strength conditioning, manual therapy, physical therapy background. But I guess my question for you is, off of Welly's, the transition, right? Like, we spent pretty much every day together, but it was always inside. We never spent time outside, really. Like, you never watched a throw. Yeah. Talk to me about like that transition of now you are working one-on-one with guys, but now you're actually teaching the guys the actual throw. Because when we worked together, everything was tissue restoring. It was manual therapy. It was, hey, how to actually load my hip, but in a weight room capacity. Yeah. So kind of talk us through like that transition now of you being one-on-one, but now you're actually teaching the guys to throw, but how you correlate that with your background of the strength conditioning, manual therapy, and how you kind of, you know, blend those two together.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about it, and it's just like, you know, that was the biggest thing, you know, coming in is like, yo, I've never really taught anyone how to like, you know, do this. But I was like super lucky that for some reason, you know, if Brian Kaplan is out there listening to this, hopefully he remembers this, but like the second day of my internship at Cressy's, he was like, I'm really introverted and I don't want to talk to anyone. Yeah. So you have to talk to me. Yeah. And for some reason that was like, fuck this guy. I'm going to be his best friend. Yeah. and he was the pitching coordinator in Florida for a long time. And for some reason that was like, just my deal was like, every time we had a new pitching coordinator or pitching staff member, I had just ingrained in my own head somehow subconsciously, like, I'm just going to be this guy's best friend. Yeah. And so I would just bother them with questions about plyo drills and throwing specific stuff and like how they looked at things and whatever. And then eventually like they would ask me questions about how I was looking at things and like why I was doing some stuff I was doing, and, you know, can we do this in the weight room to improve, you know, like back leg load or you know, hip shoulder separation or whatever it is. So it's like I almost try to have used like kind of those conversations a lot, and then trying to just like think about it from, you know, more of like I almost just use like med balls as like a correlation with like, you know, plyos, where like, one, it pisses me off because I realize that I've coached med balls wrong for the entire time I was at CSB basically. Yeah. But, you know, can't do a lot about it now. But like that's kind of how I use it, where it's like, well, if I was going to pick a med ball drill to improve like feel of like a back hip load, I would probably use like something like a step back, either like directly back. You know, if I'm going to throw right-handed, then I would step back to my right, or I'd step like this way, like behind myself, to get kind of like that feel. And so then I just think about that, and it's like, well, what cues would I give you in that med ball drill? And I would say, well, like if I was going to go like internal, you know, I'd just say like, hey, let's try to like, you know, find this at this part of your hip. If I was going to go external, I'd be like, hey, like we're just going to try to get heavy that way, you know, like things like that, just to try and like kind of use that as like a, you know, correlation to the throw, where like, you know, I'm not that good at throwing, and I'm not necessarily even like, I don't feel like I'm that good at teaching a throw, but, you know, like I can get people to find and feel some stuff that's helpful into a throw. And that's kind of like where I generally go. And I think also that's kind of why like the rehab thing fits me a little bit more, is because like a lot of the time I think, you know, patterns change a lot during rehab. So it's like trying to say, hey, like you used to do this, now you do this. We gotta, you know, we have to get back to what you were like really good at, which is another Brian Kaplan thing. Like if you sucked in 22, but you were really, really good in 19, he was gonna try to get you back to 19. And then, you know, another reason why I bothered the pitching guys so much, and they bothered me, was like, hey, in 19 he had, you know, 20 degrees of hip internal rotation or like whatever. It's like, we got to get that back because he physically can't do this, you know, on a mound right now because of where his body's at. So, like marrying those two things are kind of like what I think makes me like halfway decent at my job sometimes.
No, we'll say you're really good, and it's super cool. You mentioned a lot of things there, but one where like, hey, you make some mistakes in regards to how you coach a couple things, and I think we all have done that.
100%.
We've all made mistakes in our career, how we coach it, that where we look back like, man, I shouldn't have done that. But sometimes it even worse when you didn't coach it that well. But we learn as we go, and that's the experience component of it. But it's super unique that even though you say that your way of like you don't feel as comfortable coaching the throw, I think like you going out of your way every single day to go ask the pitching coach, hey, why do you do this? And then creating that relationship not only with the player, but with the pitching coach itself. And then the pitching coach goes out of his way, the introverted guy that doesn't talk, and asks you questions about the rehab. Well, now you're working together, right, to make the player better, which is just 100%. The end goal, and kind of speeds up the process of that. And you know, going through rehab myself, like minor injuries, hamstrings, kind of ankle injuries throughout my career, it's always like, all right, do your PT, all right, go to your field coach, and then they never communicated. Like the field coach didn't know what was happening with my ankle, and I couldn't really load into that, you know, front side when I was hitting. I was like, oh, why you're crashing to the right? I said, well, if you probably talked to my guy, he'd probably tell you I'm not ready to go 100%, so this is not going to accept force right away. But then it was kind of like this one thing where I'm working one thing with the PT, and then I'm working another with the hitting guy, and they're wearing on the same page, so I'm just having to delay my rehab process because that interaction wasn't happening. And you going out of your way just helps the player at the end of the day. Like it might be 5 minutes in a day where you go like, why are you doing that plyo drill? And then he just explains that. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then you're thinking, all right, how can I make that better over here because if he's struggling with that? So I think it's super cool. And here at Trey, we have the opportunity to train our athletes
how we want.
Exactly. You have full autonomy of your athlete. Like we have persons like you, like Nico, that are experts at different fields, but we have the autonomy to have our athletes and do whatever we want with them. Just understand, like, the ultimate goal is just to get the athlete better. And it's what makes us grow. Because, like, for example, when I came here, I wasn't the best at pitch assign. I was like, I knew it. So what I do? I just ask all the pitch assign questions there is in the world so I could become decent at it. And then combine those with everything else that I have to give the athlete the ultimate package. So I just thought super cool that you share that.
I think, I think that's like an amazing point because our conversation when he called me, and I remember, and you know, I'm just kind of mention it. He called me. He's like, "Dude, I don't know the throw, right? Like that was his thing. He's like, I don't know if I know the throw, so I don't know if I'll be good at this." And at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that I don't know because I was on a different side of the game, right? I was on the playing side. I didn't do all the behind the scenes work. I had other people that would help me do that, and I would take that, blend it with what I knew. But the whole reason why I was so convicted on telling him, like, dude, just do it. Like, and it took him maybe like a couple days to where you're like, oh man, maybe I am good. Because I knew how good he was at everything that he knew. And I knew how hard he studied. I knew how hard he worked. So my mindset was like, we can teach him the throw. But when we teach him the throw, he's going to be able to take everything that he knows and now help his athletes understand like why they're doing certain things because he has that background. Because at the end of the day, like I used to always have this like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You really can because I've learned a lot since being here. Things that I didn't ever even, like if I was playing and you told me all this stuff or said all this verbiage to me, I'd be like, I got no idea. But I knew him having the background and the work ethic, it was going to be a perfect match because it was like, he's willing to learn to get better because he asks questions, but he also he migrates. He'll just stand there and listen. Like when he first started up here, he would stand there around me and like listen to me talk to my guys, but I knew it would be a perfect blend because of his background. Because I worked with him as a player, so I already got to see what he would be like as a coach with athletes. So when I told him, I was like, dude, just believe me, trust me, we can teach you the throw. Just come in and do what you know how to do, and we'll figure out how to get you to understand and how to work with each different facet of a thrower.
Question surged from there that kind of like let the light bulb in my head. Bing. So you mentioned like when you're a player, right? This is something I see a lot. Like players, they learn something from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They get to throw 95 miles per hour, and then they go and I'm a remote coach now. I'm a personal coach for baseball players. And I'm like, I don't think you have the experience yet. You've learned it for yourself. There's so many different problems out there for different athletes that you only learn through experience by coaching people. What are things that you see in the industry go wrong with those people, particularly like, hey, they just start coaching new, or they think like, for example, more in the rehab setting, oh, I had this shoulder impingement, so they gave me these 3 exercises. I'm gonna give it to everybody with all different sorts of injuries that might not correlate to that same one. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think. I mean, in Florida, we used to call it the flavor of the week, and that's kind of what I think like plagues, really probably more rehab than anything else. Where, because I think you can you have like a lot of runway with rehab. Where like, for example, like if I had given you something horribly wrong to do in Florida, and like we probably wouldn't have known until you started throwing. You know what I mean? If I had given you it, if I had been like, hey Nico, like put your knees together in the squat when you're coming up, or something just ridiculous.
Which I would have done.
Right, like you would have done that, and and you were like, yo, my knee hurts and like all that stuff, and we might not have known that it destroyed your shoulder until you started throwing. Like I have a lot of runway there, and then I think it's a little bit better in the throw because if I give you a plyo drill, that's just like, I mean, just to pick one that I don't really like if I give you a pivot pick with a green ball, right, like, and I see you just like tricep extension your way into throwing, then that's like an immediate feedback where I'm like, oh, that ain't good. So I think that in rehab, like we just pick these like this one thing, that we see, and it's like you said, it's you come in, you're like, oh, I saw this on Instagram, like it's my big toe, bro, or like that guy you said you went to in Taiwan about the feet stuff, like I think I'm putting more weight this way than this way. It's it becomes like just exercises that are super maybe not the best choices for people, and like we saw it with like sleeper stretches, like they kind of just destroy shoulder capsules, like not really a good choice.
Add a bunch of laxity to the shoulder.
Right, like that's already super lax, like you don't need to do that. It's not how to get IR in the shoulder. Stuff like that in rehab, where I think it's just like been this constant, like, I think in the last probably 7 or so years, it's been the like constant cycle of, we need to improve like rib cage mechanics. How do we do that? Oh, we do breathing drills. No, we lift weights better. No, we do breathing drills. No, we throw med balls this way. No, we do isometrics. No, we do breathing drills. Like, and just this constant like circle of
this battle on the field.
And like, I just think like fixing that is obviously super hard, but just trying to kind of step back and say, hey, like, is this something that, like, I mean, personally, I go to like, is this something this person's gonna like do? You know what I mean? Like if I had asked Nico to run through a brick wall, then he would have been like, well, fuck, I guess I'm running through a brick wall today. Like, and that's kind of like something that I feel like super fortunate with is a lot of the players I've worked with. If I'm like, hey, you're gonna run through a brick wall today, they would have been like, all right.
Which one?
Like, you want that brick wall and you want that brick wall. Like, like which hole am I putting myself into, bro? And and I think that's like part of the issue, and especially in rehab, because it's like, I mean, especially for someone like you, where it was like in the show, not in the show anymore, overseas, injured overseas, and you're like away from your wife and kids, and you're like, well, I don't ever want to be in Taiwan ever again. Like, I'd rather go to affiliate baseball or nothing. Like, I need to do this. And this person, I trust this person, and they're telling me to do this. Like, I'm going to do it as hard as I possibly can, And so it's like, from the player side, trying to be discerning and a little, like, a little untrustworthy on some levels of just being like, you can be kind of an asshole about your rehab. And I try to tell people that, where it's like,
Be open.
yeah, like don't just like, walk into, I mean, even though it's probably, not the best thing to put out on the internet, like don't just like walk in a tread and be like, I'll do whatever you want. Be like, hey, like why are we doing this? Like
Have some curiosity.
right, like just try to, like, because we have, methods to the madness.
Yeah.
But I would rather someone be like, hey, why are we doing this? And then have like a good conversation about it than just like walk in and be like, brick wall A or brick wall B today, And so
There needs to be a balance. It can't be
Yeah.
just like all one way or all the other. It
Right.
can't be a straight, like a complete asshole, nor be like a full only yes man.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I
and then I think from like the coaching standpoint, it's just like trying to be like, hey, like, is this something they're gonna do? Is this something they're gonna like enjoy doing? And then obviously like, is this gonna work? From that kind of standpoint. So just trying to like check those boxes from the coaching side, trying to check those boxes from the player side.
100%.
Talk me. I know this is like obviously like this is our first guest, so it's kind of like it's really cool because normally we're bouncing stuff off of each other. But like, talk me through, and because you had said something, when you were just talking. Talk me through what you know now and how you have your background. You've obviously like done more studying of like pretty much everything that you've always been good at. Talk me through now, like if you were to go back in time, like obviously you can never go back in time and change it, but like what you know now, how would you approach you and I doing the rehab process together? Because now you actually know the throw, right? You know the positions of the throw.
Yeah.
You know what the throw's supposed to look like. You know how like the mechanics, the sequence of it. How, like, knowing what you know now with also your background, talk me through how maybe you might have construed a little bit things, or maybe talk me off a ledge a little bit differently. Because like, think about it, we ping-ponged a lot of stuff back and forth to where you weren't really necessarily a yes man, but it was like, well, shit, this guy played in the show.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make sure that we're doing what he thinks is right. But how would you kind of approach that now, knowing what you know now about like the throw and how everything kind of just ties together because of what my anatomy was giving me at the time, not being able to feel the serratus or having my impingement or missing my first stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that honestly I would have, like now I probably have like abused Archer Media account in Florida and like stared at you over the time period of like when, I actually don't know if we got minor league video in there, but
That's how old I am, everybody, sorry.
I would have just stared at your big league career, in terms of like where, when you were really, really good, and then when you were like not as good, and seen like what kind of changes we were seeing. Because like, I have no idea if I've actually told you this, but like out of sort of like a curiosity, like I've looked back at True Media for you and just been like, oh shit, like he's like jumping and pushing and just like terribly rotating in the like back basically like third of your career versus the first third, and it was like, oh my God, like how did anyone miss this? And and obviously like if you get right, like to me, if you're watching this, don't look at video and say, oh my God, this is gonna happen to me. But for you, like, you started getting kind of jumpy and like kind of flying really, really open, and you were a super high slot guy anyway. And so I just think that put all of the stress right into your thoracic outlet, and like part of it was probably the knee thing. But I would have probably looked back and been like, hey, like you gotta stop doing this. We gotta, and I probably would have fought hard to like watch you throw in the return to throw, and then like made, the PTs aware of that. I would have told you to say like, Dwight, you gotta restore like these things for me. Like to, I actually have no idea if Kaplan was still there when you were rehabbing or not, but like telling them, hey, you've got to watch this. And if you don't want to watch this, I'm gonna watch this. Like that's probably what I do. Going back in time is honestly just like watching you throw, and then like to kind of come up with something sort of on the fly for you. Like I probably would have just put you in like some super like high constraint throws, like I probably wouldn't have started you from a full delivery at all. Like I probably would have gone like half kneeling or 2 knees down, and then probably a split stance just to feel like not getting like so extendy. Done that, yeah, exactly, and then done that for, you know, a couple of weeks depending on how you felt, and then kind of like going from there in terms of like any kind of drills I was picking for you. But that's probably what I would do differently. I probably wouldn't change a whole lot in terms of like our conversations, just because I felt like if I just felt like it helped you a lot mentally to know that like someone was listening to you and like on your side
100%.
with everything, and like, you know, willing to like we kind of talked about before, like when, you know, you were told you can't throw based off of a fucking push-up, you know, going to Schoenberg and being like, hey man, he can throw, like he's good, like he's dumbbell benching, like he's got strength back, like we're good to go. Let the dude throw on Friday. He's gonna lose his mind if he doesn't. Like just go, you know. And like if we hadn't had those conversations, like I feel like, you know, like we wouldn't have gotten to where we got to. You know, like you might not have gotten back to AAA, to be honest with you. I just feel like that's what you kind of needed, was like someone to listen to you. So I wouldn't change anything about the conversations, but I'd try to watch you like actually throw going back.
Yeah. It's awesome you mentioned how there's changes in guys' mechanics over time and athletes don't even know it. And that's sometimes where we do a good job here at Tread of like, sometimes guys are like, it doesn't happen all the time, but there are some small scenarios where guys shove in the big leagues. We're talking like all-star caliber players, or they're in the minor leagues and they're prospects and they're doing phenomenal, and you're just checking in and you're still watching that videos because you're just making sure you don't see any changes occur from out and out, because there's anatomical changes happening. There's entropy going on. There's things that change on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, on a month-to-month basis. And if you lose 10 degrees of hip internal rotation because you're sitting on a bus for 9 hours, well, that's going to affect how you throw. And if you don't do nothing about it, you have nothing that takes a look at that, well, your mechanics are going to change, going to add stress to certain areas of your body. So sometimes, too, along with that, it's like when you go through a rehab process, you don't have the same body as you had before.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going through like, all right, this is the new body. We wanted it to go back to what it was, but how can we use constraints in the throw to get you to be where we wanted to be without causing extra unnecessary stress, which is what I see too, like in a lot of the rehabs, like when you get a guy that gets TJ and he gets his automated program given out, it's like, all right, you're going to do 50 throws at 60 feet or 45 feet. It's like, well, how? Just straight full delivery at 45 feet? So like, what are the things that you want to see better in the industry as a whole when it comes to the rehab process and going from the rehab to the throwing and how that works?
Yeah, I think personally, like, it's exactly what you said. Like, I would love to see just like a little more management of expectations, you know, from a player, because, you know, like I think it was probably Eric Schoenberg, to be honest with you, that said this at some point to someone. He was a PT in Florida. He's the man.
Shout out to him.
Shout out Eric Schoenberg. He's the homie. He, you know, Yoda, you know. He just was like, I think he was doing rehab on someone with TJ, and the guy was like, I'm so sore, I'm so tight. And Sho just like kind of stopped and was like, listen, man, you've got a scar on your arm now. Like, this is different. And it's like, you know, I think that, you know, you kind of learned this the hard way, where it's like, when you're 18 to, 25 or whatever, you're kind of invincible. You know, you've got...
Your body recovers like this.
Yeah, you've got an unbelievable amount of testosterone going. Like, you can go out drinking for 3 days straight and be completely fine.
You hit 27 and
it
just goes out the window, dude.
Yeah, like, I remember waking up, at some point when I was 26 and be like, oh my God, I'm hungover? This shouldn't be happening. Like...
It's funny. Sorry to interrupt, but
no,
just
you're
a
good.
Quick side story. I remember when I was like 18, 19, starting to like lift for real. The amount of volume that there was in my day of working out, it was like, I'll go sprint in the morning, I'll go hit the gym and do bodybuilding workout for 2 hours, and I'll be in the field for 3 hours.
Yeah.
indestructible. Now I go to the gym for an hour and I'm wrecked for 2 days straight.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
insane, but
Exactly, yeah, bro. Like during COVID, I would literally just, I was at home like everyone else, so I would lift weights in the morning. I would eat all day, and I'd lift weights at night, and I was huge and strong, and like, I was like, this is amazing. And now same thing. I basically touch a barbell, and I'm sore for 3 days. Just like, but that's kind of the thing. Like, you have a scar on your body, like. You have to be diligent. You cannot be the same person you were. Like you get injured, like you can't just be like, well, I don't really have time to warm up today. I'm just gonna like throw and see what happens. Yeah. You gotta go in with a plan. You've gotta like actually talk to your coach. You've gotta like get with, your PT or your, movement guy or strength coach or whoever you trust. And have a plan of attack like every single day. And it sucks and it's boring and it's terrible, but like that's kind of your life when you get injured. And like and the people who I've seen recover from injury in the most effective ways are that way, where like they're not necessarily like overly concerned with how their body feels and all that sort of stuff, but they're more concerned with, hey, did I check the box of like, did I do my movement prep today? Did I like warm up? And by warm up, I mean like get sweaty before you're throwing. Like, did you, have I like done everything I can do in my lift? Like, am I getting the point of the lifts down? Like, am I asking like intelligent questions to my coach, not just like, how much weight should I use for this? Like, being like, hey, like, am I doing this the right way? Are there things I could do to improve this? Like, things like that. I mean, even like simple things, right? Like a lot of guys come back from TJ, for example, like, and they will, and they just, because of, they got their elbow cut open, they start to like lose a little bit of, supination or pronation, maybe both. And like as a result, they might start to like cut plyos. And they might have never cut plyos in their life, right? And they're spiking plyos right in front of them. And that's like the number one thing I'm probably saying to guys every day here. It's like, hey, high and arm side, high and arm side, high and arm side. And it's like, I will keep saying it until I'm blue in the face and I'm dead. Because like a lot of guys will come back from forearm stuff and just, things change.
All pitch age changing and everything. Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, you've got to be dialed in. Like, and if you can't, and like, I understand hating, sleeping well, eating well, because it's boring and it's stupid and it sucks, but you kind of have to do it. I will never understand going to a sport you love doing and not taking everything you can in. And like, if someone's still cutting the plyo week 3, I'm like, dude, we like
figure it
back
out,
way up. We have huge issues right now. Like you've got to figure this out. You know what I mean? Like that's really the kind of thing, is like just dialing in the little things that you don't want to do every day, all the time.
Absolutely.
No, man. I mean, this to me, it's always fun because like we've had amazing talks, but it's always cool to hear the perspective of the person that you spent so much time with. I mean, he became part of my family. I mean, he was around when my second kid was first born. Now my second kid was born, and then now, my kids are older and stuff. Like, I mean, he's been part of my family, so it's always cool to like hear this perspective in a different sense of outside of me being the player, him being the coach, to where now it's like we're in the same world. And like what he doesn't realize too is like the things that we went through and we talked about when I was rehabbing has helped me in this facet and in this job, because like I'm now doing what he was doing, helping me whenever I help some of my athletes. So it's always really cool to be able to hear that and talk about it, but to just understand how smart this dude really is and how lucky his athletes are, because he has the best of both worlds, right? He's got the background of strength conditioning, the manual therapy, the tissue quality, all this stuff, but also now he has the throw. So like he's able to blend these in, and like myself included, and like all of us, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, and I think that's what he does. He doesn't give himself enough credit. Yeah, does he know the throw perfectly? No, who does, right? Because if we all did, all of our athletes would be throwing
105.
Right, exactly. But I think at the end of the day, for all of our listeners out there, is like, there's no one-way path to do it. You know, fall in love with the monotony of what this game entails, and if you really love the game, like everyone says they do, then you got to really love it. Love the process of like, hey, the next three weeks might be Groundhog Day, but if you continue to show up and get 1% better, at the end of the day, that's when change can happen. Like we've all been alluding to every podcast we've done, is like hearing it from a guy that works with guys with rehab. I mean, it sounds cliche, but monotony is king in this game. The more you show up, if you show up and you do your work and you do your task, good things usually happen. And if you have the mindset for it.
100%. We made it to our last 2 segments. First one, sponsorship. Who we're sponsored by?
Jesus Christ.
The one and only.
Declan, we're responsible for Jesus Christ, you know? Yes. We come here and talk and share, wisdom, but the best wisdom comes from, Jesus. You can have all the wisdom you want in this world, but if you don't use it for the right thing, you're wasting it, So I'm glad that we had Declan on the podcast, and, it was cool just to listening and hearing, not just walking and saying hi to each other, but just speaking each other's mind, picking your mind up, and then just learn, so.
And then our last segment, I heard this the other day, so I might say it wrong. If you have to give somebody some, is it insulate? Forget about it. Just I'm out of English.
Hey, remember we talked about English second language, so it's a little bit tough.
Dude, I heard this one thing.
But I can't help you out because you didn't even say the word.
Yeah, you want to help?
Dude, I heard this quote the other day about giving somebody an advice, and it was super cool. It's like
now make your own question.
Nah, well, I'm gonna just put it in a sentence so I could break it down. If you see somebody like an athlete on the floor today, and you see the guy's lost, going through rehab right now, and you don't know this guy, you never met him, you could approach him and tell him a sentence or 2 that you could help him out with, what would you say?
Don't suck. Just kidding.
Probably just go with, hey man, listen, it's probably not gonna be okay today. It's probably not gonna be okay tomorrow. Might not be okay next week, but next year, 2 years, 10 years, you're gonna be all right.
That's a great advice right there. That's freaking awesome. All right, guys, thank you for watching another episode. For those 100 viewers that we've been having consistently, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. If you're watching our episodes, you're not subscribed. There's 2 types of people in this world: subscribers and not subscribers. We don't lie to non-subscribers. So, thank you guys. See you in the next one.
See you.
Yeah.